Hi guys, welcome to Darts Class, and today's video is about a subject close to my heart, dartitis. If you're watching this, there's a good chance that you've probably got it. So I'm going to talk you through what happened to me, the mistakes I made and what I did to correct it to come back and probably be the best I've ever played darts. So yeah, if you want to give me a like and subscribe, you can find all my tips and tricks to improving your games. But here we go, I'm going to go through dartitis and how I overcame it. I'll start with a bit of a disclaimer. I can't guarantee you that I can cure your dartitis. It's a horrible affliction to have, especially when you're playing darts, a game that you're so passionate about and you can't do what you used to do. It's the most frustrating thing in the world to see the darts going all over the place or not even leaving your hand when you know you used to be able to just pound that treble 20 over and over again. So I'll give you some background of what happened to me and my story. So I started playing darts in about 2010, improved, joined leagues, started winning regularly, and in 2013, the Christmas of 2013, I played a competition here in a local pub in our local league. 67 players entered, and I beat a county player in the semi-final and a county player in the final to win my first ever competition. Whether that went to my head, I don't know. Straight away when I got home, the first thing I thought of was, if I can do that, why can't I improve and do it more regularly and really have a go at making darts something that I can be really good at. So the very next day, in the garage here, practicing, trying to work out how I could improve, I started tinkering. I changed my barrels, I was changing stems, I was changing flights, changing the way I stood, the way I held the dart, the way I released the dart, how hard I was throwing it, you name it, I was trying to change it. And impatience was getting the better of me. I might try a new combination of barrels, stems and flights, hit a ton, hit a 60, and then if I hit a 26, I was just going, no, no good, throwing that combination away and moving on to the next one. So I wasn't really working on my consistency with any particular set, and because of that, those 26s were happening more and more, and my practice was getting more and more fragmented, which meant my confidence was going down a lot. That transferred into my competitive darts, where I wasn't believing that I was the champion that I was just a couple of months before. So patience was running out. I was losing regularly in the league, competitions going out first round. I continued to tinker around and my brain was just scrambled. I was coming back in from practice miserable because I couldn't hit a barn door compared to what I used to do. But I carried on, and I carried on making the same mistakes, and then it started happening. The dart itself was just getting caught in my hand and was beginning to drag. I'll get a dart, hold on. And what was happening was my release point, I was thinking far too much about where I was letting go of the dart. So instead of just letting it happen by instinct, I was trying to place it in the target. And what was happening was my hand was rolling the dart. This meant that going for treble 20s when it was first beginning to hit me, I was hitting single 9s. And then it got worse and I was hitting a treble 8. And then I was throwing off the board below the 16s. It was getting worse and worse, and I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know how to overcome it, and I certainly didn't consider it to be dartitis at that point until it started affecting me in games. I played a game in this pub, local to me, against a team that I was really friendly with. I knew a lot of the guys that played there. I played with a lot of them before, and 2 darts in a row in my game hit the wall at about waist height under the board, and there's just no excuse for it. If you do that once, you can have a dart that slips, but 2 in a row, it just got to me. My head had gone, my bottle had gone, and at that point I realised what I had, and the best thing I could do was take a break. So I took a break. 3 or 4 weeks later, started throwing again, and the same things were happening. I still hadn't realised my error of trying to change too much. I was thinking way too much about it. So it got to a stage where the summer was approaching, so I packed my darts away. I threw myself into playing some cricket and some golf, and from that point on I would throw once a month maybe in the garage for 10 or 15 minutes, but darts went from being something I was playing 2-3 times a week, practicing every night, to not picking up a dart in 2 years. I just couldn't face the fact that I wasn't as good as I was before, and it had got to me mentally. So I was throwing myself into other pursuits that I could focus on. And then one day, a couple of years later, I went into the very same pub, and a friend of mine was in there throwing. When I started to develop the first signs of dartitis, he had improved hugely and was just breaking into our local Super League team. And he saw me at the bar and he said to me, Bryn, I hear you've got dartitis. I'm really struggling with it at the moment. And it was interesting to hear. So I went over and watched him throw, and it was hard to watch. He was far worse affected than I was. I could at least let go of the dart, and maybe the drags would happen every 3-4 throws. He literally couldn't let go of it. He was stuck there for 10 seconds before he could reset, and the only way he could play, and he was playing for his team still to make up their numbers, he was throwing grenade darts. It was just shoulder and just no aim, just basically to make sure they weren't forfeiting games. It did make me think, do you know what, it could be worse. I'm not that bad. So I went home and reassessed exactly how I could address the issues I had and came up with a new strategy. So at this point I hadn't played competitively for a long time. I'd lost the bug to play competitively, so I knew if I could overcome it, I had time on my side. I wasn't going to rush back into competitions and matches and just have my confidence knocked if I lost and start overthinking again. So I started from the very basics, from square one. The first thing I did was pack away all my other old dart equipment, apart from the very first set of darts I bought, the ones I'm still using. Same flights, same stems, same setup, everything. That put me in a more comfortable position mentally, and by packing everything else away, I knew I couldn't get tempted to change. So no matter how badly I was throwing, I was just sticking with the same set, this set, making sure that I was getting familiar with the flight, and that if things were going wrong, I couldn't blame it on the dart setup. I knew it was something that I was doing wrong. So I got to relearn the entry angle of the dart, how to use the lie properly. I reassessed my throw to go back to the very basics again. I adopted the pencil grip, the precision grip that I started with. I've actually got a video, I'll just pop it up here now for you to go through the basics of how to grip a dart, so that I wasn't overcomplicating anything. My stance remained the same. I was just making sure I had my locked right knee, my weight forward, my toes pointing to 10, 11 o'clock, and I was sighting the dart and throwing as smoothly as possible, and trying not to think about my release point. So I was throwing for a while like that, just trying to see steady improvements. It was happening as far as my consistency for my good darts, but I still had that one bug, which was a drag dart. There was still the odd dart that was going into a single 11 when I was going for double top, and it was so infuriating that I couldn't eliminate that. And then one day I realised my error. I had my eureka moment. I was playing a game of cricket, not a game, I was practising at my club, and one of our coaches was coaching a young bowler, and as the bowler ran into the nets, he was looking at where his feet were landing and not looking at the batsman. And as I was listening to the coach talk to him, I realised that was the same principle that I was getting wrong in my darts. The young bowler was running in, looking at his feet, and then as he landed, then he was looking up and refocusing at the bowler. And then it was really hard for him to calibrate his hand-eye coordination to make sure the ball was getting to the target. I realised this is what I was doing. I was so hell-bent to make sure my grip was right, my pullback was right, my release was right, that I realised that in my stance, I wasn't looking at the board and what I was aiming at. I was looking at the dart. What I was doing was I was having the dart in focus and the board in my peripherals, and as I pulled back, it was then I was refocusing at the target. There's just too much going on there. So the first thing I did was, once I knew I was comfortable with my grip and my setup and my pullback and throw, was I just moved slightly to the left and I focused on the treble 20 and kept the dart in my peripheral vision. And I did that and I threw straight, and I knew the principle of keeping your arms straight, there's a video on that, would make sure the dart would get to its target and I could trust its flight by doing that. But it was as simple as that. I wasn't looking at what I was throwing at. It sounds absolutely crazy, but that was the moment that changed it around for me. I trusted my throw. I trusted my instincts. I didn't think about anything. I switched off, put some music on, and I just threw at the treble 20. I focused at it so hard, that's all I could see in my line of sight. Peter Wright is a great example of this. He says when he's looking at the treble 20 to throw at, he's not looking at a general area. He looks at specific holes that are in the board and in that treble 20 that previous darts have left. It gives him a real focus point of which to throw at. So that's something that helped me immensely. By changing that focus to the target rather than the throw, I eliminated all of those complicated thoughts that I had about my setup, about my grip, about my release point, about how I was throwing it, and I started seeing huge improvements. But one thing I didn't want to do was go back into competitive darts too fast. The one thing about dartitis is a lot of it is mental, and a hammering of your confidence is the worst thing that you can do. So I knew I wasn't in a rush to get back to play competitively, so I just wanted to see small gains week on week, month on month. So I started developing a couple of games. The first one was this game popping up now, hopefully, a game called Tidy, a game I developed just to encourage myself to not go searching for massive scores but to keep straight. And essentially the aim of the game is to get 3 darts in one big scoring section. I knew if I could do that, then my consistency was there. Going from dragging darts into the single 11 aiming at the treble 20, 3 single 20s was a huge confidence boost that things were going in the right direction. Similarly, I started using my checkout builder game. Again, if the card doesn't pop up, just go and check out my previous uploads and you'll see that there. The checkout builder game meant that I wasn't chasing around the board too much, but I wasn't just relentlessly aiming at doubles. The principle of the game is to hit one big single number followed by a double. And if you've got dartitis, the victory of hitting that big single number first is huge, and you can transfer that confidence to hitting the doubles, and then all of a sudden you're taking out 41, 56 in 2-3 darts, and you realise, actually this is happening for me again, I can do it. So I adapted my training regime so that I was throwing, playing Tidy for 20 minutes, I was playing the checkout builder for 20 minutes, and then I was playing legs of 301 straight in for 20 minutes after that. I knew that by putting the match practice at the end of the practice session, my arm was warmed up, those 2 practice games would give me confidence to check out the 301 effectively. And before you knew it, I was hitting all sorts, and my confidence had got back. I had confidence in my throw again, and I was letting them go, and that rogue dart had almost completely gone and been eliminated out of my game. So 2-3 years after quitting darts through dartitis, I thought I was ready to have another shot at this. So I went to a competition It was actually held at the same pub that I won the competition at in 2013. It was a local tournament. It was the first year they'd done it. It was a memorial tournament for a league player who had sadly passed away. So I knew I was going there more as a mark of respect for the player and his family, who all play in the league, to show my face. But I knew it was also a great opportunity to get back into some competitive darts. The pressure was off me to a point. New good players had emerged who didn't know who I was, basically, so I was underestimated. I had a couple of lucky draws early where I played some pretty weak players and started winning, and then that confidence just came back again and again, and I ended up my first day competitive darts back again, winning this. So this was my semi-final trophy from that day. I missed a bullseye shot at 1-2-1 to win my semi-final 2-1. Lost to a player who is now a teammate in my Super League team, and he went on to be selected for county, and then played another county player in the final. So I knew I was in good company again. Went home, and the confidence I had from that night was huge. And from this point I knew I had overcome the demons, and that I was back on track to being the best dart player I could be. So that night made me realise it really was working. My strategy of just having little tidy scoring practices, an easy confidence boosting finishing game, and some match practice at the end of every session, going back to the basics of the throw, it was all working. So I got home that night, went on to Darts Corner. Other darts shops are available, and it's just my one of choice, and I ordered 50 packs of stems, 50 packs of flights, and then threw pretty much everything else in the bin. I knew that I was committing to the setup I had and the system I had to see those small gains. From that point on, I started playing in more and more league games, and then over the next year or so, the success kept coming. I was winning tournaments, I was getting to semi-finals, I was getting runner-up places in county-wide cash tournaments. My team won the league and one of the cups that we play for in the league. I was surrounding myself with really positive thinking players that weren't getting on each other's back, players that played darts for the fun of it and didn't take it too seriously. All of that made me relax and made me develop more and more as a player, better than I ever was before I had dartitis. Getting over dartitis is a long journey. There is no quick fix for it. You have to analyse your throw, analyse what you're doing wrong. For me, it was about not chasing anything too quickly, not looking for huge improvements all in one go, going back to the very basics. And my moment that I realised what I was doing wrong was I wasn't looking at the target. I don't know if that's true. If you've got dartitis, you might just go, what a load of rubbish this is. Of course I'm looking at the dartboard. But just think about it for a moment. Focus on it. Take the Peter Wright route. Have a look at a hole in the double you're aiming for, or in the treble that you're aiming for, and just focus on that. Just look and stare at that hole in that double or in that segment of the board and throw at it. Don't think about the throw. Don't try and refocus. Don't look at what your hand's doing. Let instinct take over, and soon enough your natural throw will come back, I'm sure of it. It's a game of patience. It's a waiting game. I don't think you can just wake up one day and be rid of it. I had days where I thought, oh, here we go, I've completely shook it. The next day I came in and it was all over the place. I was damaging the wall, I was damaging my darts, literally throwing the dart and it hitting the wall at waist height. It can really shatter your confidence, and that's not something I want for any of you that might have it. So if you have dartitis, or if you've overcome it in any other way, please put a comment below. There's plenty of people here that are watching for the same reasons I was looking for information on dartitis, if they have it. If you've got it, you know how frustrating it can be. If you've got it and overcome it, everyone here who's reading the comments and watching this video, is all ears. They want any tip they can get. It's the most frustrating thing in the world. You just want rid of it. So if you found a technique or a tip that has helped eliminate dartitis from your life, then please put it in the comments below. Help out a fellow dart player, and we hope to see you all back on that oche again very soon. Thank you for watching this video on CV Darts. Remember to like, subscribe and leave a comment. You can also follow us at CV Darts on Twitter.